So, June 6, 1944, 70th anniversary is just about upon us. And it's had me thinking a lot about the guys that have served, you know, all the guys that we're losing on a daily basis. The history that is getting lost and it's not being taught in schools. And my own personal mission to help preserve a small piece of history. I'm not sure for what, but at least for me it's a reminder of what kind of sacrifices that our relatives or the generations before us, you know, put forth to ensure our freedom. So I thought as kind of like a tribute, I would share with you guys some of the items out of my personal collection. Just a small tidbit of some of the things that I hold dear to me. Some of those items belong to my grandfather Bob Chrisman, who was a sergeant in the Persian Gulf Command. He was a railroad engineer that helped supply the Russians when they were fighting on the Eastern Front with Germany. I have also some artifacts from my wife's grandfather, Sergeant Melvin Taylor. Then also, you know, then there's those people that don't talk about the war, like my grandfather Charles Hadley, who passed away here a few years ago and had a full military funeral. But you know, he wouldn't speak of the war, and the only artifact I have of his is a photograph of him, you know, from the war era. I know that he was in France. I'm not sure if he was part of the D-Day portion or not, but you know, people dealt with stress differently in those times, and not talking about it was a big part of it for a lot of those people. So anyway, these are going to be some of the items that are in my collection. Some are going to be battlefield relics, some are going to be personal items from family members, and some are going to be maybe tributes to those who served. So anyway, check it out, and you know, post below if you have some you know, interesting items that you want to share with me, because I'm all about the preservation of history and love to hear more about it. So anyway, stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and big thank you to all of our veterans and past heroes that have served. These were the dog tags that my grandfather wore all throughout his time in the Army. Had this little medallion here that actually opens up into a knife that he kept on his dog tags. This is my grandfather's Army jacket. I never knew this thing existed until after he had already passed away. Both of my grandparents passed. My wife and I bought their house. Going through and cleaning things out, I was up in the rafters of the garage and found a duffel bag. That duffel bag happened to be his overseas bag. And in that overseas bag was this jacket. And then also along with that, there was a ration card. Dated August 1st of 1945. Looks like he wanted to make sure that he got beer and smokes. Nothing else is marked. But also, I framed this, his discharge papers. Here's a special grouping of items that I wish I would have known this guy a bit longer. This was Sergeant Melvin Taylor. He was my wife's grandfather. And he served under Patton in northern Africa, into Sicily, and up into Italy. That was one of his patches. This is his canteen that he carried, and his leggings. And it's got some staining on there that I'd be kind of curious to know the DNA on, or maybe I wouldn't. But also with this grouping is a typed set of his letters home that he sent my wife's grandmother Julia, that she typed up, and kind of gives a little bit of story behind these items. So a very special grouping here that I'm very proud to own. So what we have here is a M1 carbine. It's the M1A1 variant. This is a reproduction stock, but what makes it special is this signature on the side. I had an evening about 5 years ago where I actually got to meet Sergeant Don Malarkey from the 101st Airborne, Easy Company from the 506, for those of you that are familiar with the Band of Brothers. And got to hear some pretty neat stories from him, and he autographed my rifle for me. So this is a pretty special item that I have, that what better way to commemorate D-Day than having a rifle that's a reproduction of like what he used during the war. So let's look at a few other items. Here we have a US helmet that came out of France. Don't really have too much other information on it. Doesn't have any holes, but it does have quite a bit of corrosion. There's an old front seam. Just another neat piece of history that I liberated and brought home. I guess better in my collection than in a trash heap somewhere. We have kind of a neat piece that doesn't look like much to most people, but what we have is a parachute infantry person's rigger's pouch. So it would have been made by somebody who did rigging for parachutists during World War II. Carry little things with you when you jumped out of the plane. Maybe some magazines or other items. Here we have an original 506 patch. We have the Airborne Division. This is actually a prop that was made for the Band of Brothers, but behind here you see this camo behind these signatures of Wild Bill Garnier, Babe Heffron, and Don Malarkey. That's an actual piece of parachute that came out of Holland. That was found out in a forest, buried amongst a bunch of stuff, and had a guy that was gracious enough to send that out to me, but just kind of a neat display piece that I keep hanging in my office. Now here are some items that are just kind of downright spooky, but in the preservation of history, I'd much rather have them than have them melted down somewhere. I have here a Luftwaffe helmet. This was a barn find. It was also found with these aviator's goggles. And here we have a K98K rifle and bayonet. These were dug up in Belgium by a kid that was a foreign exchange student, probably about 10 years ago. And it was probably a captured weapon, or they were anticipating it being captured because the bolt had been taken out and no longer has like the follower and all that stuff. The rear sight here, kind of interesting. It still moves. But anyway, just kind of a a spooky thing. And also with that, the bayonet. You know, the wood is long gone. And just one of these items that I'm pretty glad that can't speak for itself, but has an important part in history. And preserving history is an important thing. But anyway, those are a few items there that I thought I'd share. And the inside of the helmet, see that the leather's pretty much all rotted away. But the helmet's actually pretty well intact and preserved. And here we have a few M1 Garand M block clips. These were all recovered from the Ardennes forest near Foy, Belgium. I used to have a pen pal back there, and these were all recovered by him in varying levels of decay. Each one of these clips represents 8 rounds fired in battle. Here we have a couple pieces of brass. So anyway, that's a little piece of some of the history, some of the relics that I have. If you have anything in your collection at home, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching.